Hello everyone, this is Shiv Prem, a legal intern at Lexis and Company, and currently pursuing BLLB honors from Central University of South Bihar. So, in today's session, I am dealing with the doctrine of severability. In the first video, I had gone through the introduction part, and further, I had dealt the practice of doctrine of severability. And in this video, I will be dealing with the very important question, that is whether one could challenge the constitutionality of the law. And further the other parts. Let us start with this question, whether one could challenge the constitutionality of law. One can challenge the constitutionality of the law, but only if our rights are directly affected by the law. Then only we can question the constitutionality of the law. It follows in such ways as when a person is outside the class that might be injured by the statute, then he has no right to complain. Then, where a statute affects bona vacentia, then there is no person who is competent to challenge the validity of such a statute. Again, where the statute operates as a contract, either party of the contract is entitled to challenge the validity of the statute. So now let us see the presumptions taken by the courts. It is always on the person who attacks and tries to show that it is contravening the constitution, then it is him on whom the burden is upon to show that courts that while performing its duties, it has the constitutional principles by and its guidelines while laying down its decisions, as it said in the case of Chiranjit Lal Chaudhary versus the Union of India and others. If it happens that the challenge is not on the provisions of the constitution, then the courts have to consider to make sure that it is intra-virus and try to interpret the same, so it is clear that the burden fully lies upon the person who questions the decisions and challenges it in the court of law. If something happens and constitutionality of the act is challenged, then the person must show that he has sustained some injury as a result of that, or that he or she is in immediate danger of sustaining some direct injury as a result of the statute or law coming into force. And if it even abridges the fundamental rights of the person in any form, then the aggrieved person has all the powers to approach the courts without waiting or delaying for the statute to take some or any type of action. And if it happens that the person doesn't possess any of the fundamental rights, then he or she cannot challenge the validity of the law on the grounds that it is inconsistent with the fundamental right. Even a corporation has a legal entity separate from that of its shareholders. Hence, in the case of corporations, whether the corporation itself or the shareholders would be entitled to impeach the validity of the statute, and this will depend upon the questions whether the right of the corporation or of shareholders have been affected by the statute that has been impugned. When it happens that the fundamental rights of the company is impugned by the statute, then it also affects the interest of the concerned shareholders. Then, in such cases, the shareholders also impugn the constitutionality of the statute. In such situations, what happens in that the joinder of the company as co-petitioner would not bar relief to the shareholders, even though the company is not a citizen, and so would not be entitled to relief. Also, the possibility of financial relief due to the management of the company being taken over by the government is sufficient to give locus standi to the shareholder. Now let us see what are the effects when a law is declared as unconstitutional. Article 141 of the Indian Constitution says that the Honorable Supreme Court of India is binding on all the courts which are within the territory of India. For example, once any law or any statute is declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of India, then it shall be from that date onwards binding on all the lower courts in India. The effect of this is that the decision operates as a judgment in rem against all the persons who may or is going to seek relief in any court of India. So in further proceedings, then there is no onus on the party to be affected to establish its unconstitutionality again, and then the court is bound to reject the law which is declared as invalid by the Supreme Court. The same thing is applied when the law has been declared to be unconstitutional partially. If the law is sought to be enforced in a case, then in such cases no notice is to be taken by the court of that part which has been declared by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. In other words, it means that the court will read the statute in such a manner that the part of the section which has been declared as invalid has never existed before. If it happens that the person is prosecuted for the contraventions of the selection of the section of which has been declared as invalid, then no onus is the cast upon the accused to prove that his or her case falls upon and under that part of the section which has been held invalid. On the other hand, it happens that the prosecution cannot succeed unless it is proven that the accused has contravened that part of the section which is enforceable and valid after the Honorable Supreme Court decision. No distinction is made between a case where the law is declared to be invalid because of the lack of legislative competence and a case where it is declared invalid on the ground of contraventions of a fundamental right. Even Article 245 Clause 1 of the Indian Constitution lays down a very specifically that the legislative power, whether it is of union or of the state legislature, is and will always remain subject to the other provisions of the Constitution. The result is that when a legislature makes any law which is contravening to a provision of the Constitution, like say any of the fundamental rights, then the position will remain the same as if had no power to legislate over the subject matter of the legislation at all. Then accordingly, the declaration of invalidity of the law by the Honorable Supreme Court goes through the legislative power in either of the cases as held in many cases by the court itself. That's all for now. Let us meet you in the next session. Please do like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.